I'm Kimberly Heslin, and I'm a activist mostly in Colorado.
So you were there on caucus night?
Yes, I definitely was. That was a very intense night. We went out to the junior high. I got there about, I'd say probably at least 4 hours early because I knew it was going to be a really big crowd. Definitely was a big crowd. Brought my daughter with me, because I didn't have anyone to watch her. And, I wanted to make sure I was early enough to get parking. And I was. And then, like I said, I was about 4 hours early. We decided, okay, well, nobody's here yet. We can leave for just a minute and come back. Maybe half an hour later, we came back and the parking lot was already full. So we went ahead and got in line. Thankfully, the line wasn't too long just yet, but we still had, hours to wait. God, it ended up insane. The show out for Bernie, I mean, it was beyond what the school had capacity for. They had to open up different levels of the school that was supposed to be closed and locked up for the day. They had such a hard time getting everybody in, and they actually couldn't get everybody in. There was a lot of people that were just left outside. It went for hours. We were in line. It was crazy till probably like 7 o'clock at night. The news had showed up and already gave up and left because it took so long to get everybody in. It was really intense. Like we stood in line for hours.
Why Bernie? Why not Hillary?
Oh my gosh. There's so many reasons why Bernie. My background in my profession is I am a medical biller. So essentially, whenever you go to the doctor or you go to the hospital, whenever you get sick, whenever you have surgery, there's a person in between your provider and your insurance company. And I am that person. I'm the person that gets your insurance company to pay. And with that being said, I get to see what happens behind the scenes that really nobody really knows about. You can't just go around and Google this kind of information and stuff. So for what it's worth, there are contracts and negotiated prices between your insurance and that provider, and there's people that don't have insurance. I'll give a really sad example that I had once. There was a lady that ended up going to Vail Valley Medical Center, and because of its location, they are considered a resort hospital. She had to take her baby there because her baby was sick. They didn't have insurance. At the time, I was working both patient accounts and insurance. So she called in on her bill because the bill was over $100,000. The hospital wouldn't offer any discounts. They wouldn't give her, even remotely close to a reasonable payment plan. They expected her to pay it off within 9 months. Who can pay $100,000 in 9 months just because their baby got sick? That was the most insane thing, and I fought it all the way up the chain of command as hard as I could, and I can't tell you how many times I talked to that lady on the phone and cried with her because there was literally nothing I can do. We need Medicare for all. We need Medicare for all. My mom lived off of Medicare and Medicaid. She wouldn't have made it to the age that she did without Medicare and Medicaid. Everyone needs it. Kids need it. Adults need it. Healthy people need it. Sick people need it. My stepdad, he's a veteran. He needs Medicare and Medicaid. Bernie wants that for all of us. We are the only nation without that kind of a safety net system in the developed nations, obviously. But how can we sit here and allow someone to go completely bankrupt because, oh my gosh, it's choosing between I'm going to get sick and die or I'm going to have medical debt for the rest of my life or go bankrupt. One huge thing that really stood out to me was on February 24th, 2016. Hillary was holding a private fundraiser in Charlottesville, South Carolina, and there was an activist, her name was Ashley Williams, who went to that private fundraiser, and she held up a sign that read, "Bring them to heal."
I think we've got somebody saying here, we have to bring them
for mass
to
incarceration.
heal. Okay, heal. Okay, we'll talk
I'm
about
not a super predator, Hillary Clinton.
Okay, fine, we'll talk about it.
Apologize to black people for mass incarceration.
Well, can I talk and then maybe you can listen to what I say? Okay, fine. Thank you very much. There's a lot of issues in this campaign. The very first speech that I gave back in April was about criminal justice reform
Called black
and
people
about
super predators.
You're being rude.
It's
not appropriate.
Super predators. That's rude.
This is not appropriate.
That's rude.
Now, you want to hear the facts, you just want to talk.
I know that you called black people super predators in 1994. Please explain the record. Explain it to us. You owe black people an apology.
Well,
Excuse us. That's an
I'll tell you what, if you
inappropriate.
will give me a chance to talk, I'll approach your side. You know what? Nobody's ever asked me before. You're the first person to ask me, and I'm happy to address it, but you are the first person.
She asked Hillary to apologize for mass incarceration of black people. Not only did Ashley not get an answer from Hillary, she was immediately escorted out. Hillary's past is her present, and in her past, she bragged about being a Goldwater girl. And we all know that Goldwater was a conservative, right-wing nutbag. He thought that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was an overreach of the federal government. And when he was asked if he would vote against it again, he absolutely said he would. So that to me just tells me Hillary's really a Republican. She was quoted as saying she has a private persona and a public persona. And after that, there was a huge spark all over the internet with the hashtag Witch Hillary. She might say certain things, but if you look at her voting record and you look at everything she stood for, Bernie was the only one that pulled her to the left. Bernie pulled her to the left on the minimum wage. He fought hard for $15, and she wasn't having it until she saw how popular Bernie was becoming over that, and then she finally went to $12. She really is just another establishment Republican hiding under the guise of the title Democrat, and she is not a Democrat.
How is Bernie going to help your family?
Gosh, in so many different ways. Education. Education is a huge thing that he fights for. He wants us to be able to have a fair education for everybody, not just all these private schools. He wants public schools to be better. He wants us to be able to have public college instead of us having all this massive debt. I can't tell you, I have over $40,000 in student debt. And there's nothing you can do to write it off. He wants Medicare for all. He wants an actual future for our kids.
My question for the candidates is, do Black Lives Matter or do all lives matter?
The question from Arthur in Des Moines is, do Black Lives Matter or do all lives matter? Let's put that question to Senator Sanders.
Black Lives Matter. And the reason those words matter is the African American community knows that on any given day, some innocent person like Sandra Bland can get into a car, and then 3 days later, she's going to end up dead in jail, or their kids are going to get shot. We need to combat institutional racism from top to bottom, and we need major, major reforms in a broken criminal justice system in which we have more people in jail than China. And I intend to tackle that issue to make sure that our people have education and jobs rather than jail cells.
He wants to make sure that there's not police violence against Black people. And that's a huge thing for me. My daughter is mixed race. Although she's very young, since she was about, I'd say, maybe is racism. Every single day, people ask her, well, what are you? And it's like, how do you ask somebody, what are you? That's like as if they're like a thing and not a person. You know, what I told her to answer people when they ask her that is to say, I'm a human. When Bernie was out there talking about Sandra Bland, how you can get in your car to go wherever you're going to go, and then 3 days later end up dead in jail, and nobody gets punished for that. Bernie is the one that fights for that. He wants the systemic racism to be taken care of and for police to be held accountable. You see Bernie, you know, in a civil rights protest, chaining himself to other Black people, saying this is not right. And I believe that was out in Illinois, if I'm correct. I need Bernie. My daughter needs Bernie. We all need Bernie because Bernie actually cares about all of us. He doesn't care if you're a woman. He doesn't care if you're gay. He doesn't care if you're black, white, green, yellow, purple, blue. He wants all of us to have a fair opportunity. and an equal opportunity. How are we supposed to have a future for our children if we can't even survive paycheck to paycheck? When Trump got elected to office, it was a really terrible morning. I woke my daughter up for school. She saw that I had been crying. She just kind of hung her head, asked me who won. I told her who won. And she didn't ask me. She looked at me and she told me. She said, Mom, today's the day I'm going to get shot in school. That's how much this affected her. And at the time, she was only in 5th grade. We have allowed this system to not only have the rise of Trump, thank you very much, Hillary, for that too, but he has allowed this this rhetoric to come out where it's just okay to be straight up racist anymore. Bernie is not going to allow that type of thing to happen, you know? If it was Bernie, we wouldn't be hearing all these horrific things. We wouldn't have a Muslim ban. We wouldn't have these things. Bernie just all around has much better policies when it comes to both foreign and domestic, when it comes to the people. He's an actual humanist.
Who did you vote for in 2016 general election?
I voted for Jill Stein. The reason I voted for Jill Stein was because not only did her platform follow along with Bernie's platform, but I could not, in good conscience, vote for Hillary or for Trump. And the other thing that I was hoping for was, with the momentum that Bernie had built, I was hoping enough of us would have voted for Jill to get that 5% and have another party on the ballot, because we definitely are tired of this two-party system.
How do you feel about Erica Garner endorsing Bernie Sanders?
That was a huge, you know, like I said, my daughter is mixed. She faces racism every day that I don't have to face, but every time she walks out that door, she does. My mom's last words to me were, Kim, I can't breathe. And that's how she died. Those were her last words to me. That was a very painful experience to hear those last words come from my mom. She died in a horrible way. She was murdered by a rehab facility that was never brought to justice either. So it really impacts my heart with Erica Garner's story, you know, dealing with the racism, dealing with police murdering her father on national television, and his last words being, I can't breathe.